Hi, everybody. Tom Sawyer here, and I am filling in today for Brian Copeland on Copeland's Corner. And we have an amazing show for you today. Nicole Boxer is the daughter of Barbara Boxer, and Jim Vallely, TV writer extraordinaire, wrote on Arrested Development and Golden Girls and many other shows. And Cathy Ladman, one of my favorite comedians in the country, terrific show, and I hope you really enjoy it. Also, I want to remind you, please like and subscribe below, because the more of those we get, the more people we reach, and the more it gets into the algorithms, and it makes us happy. Please make us happy in these unhappy times. So we really appreciate that. Like and subscribe. We hope you enjoy the show. Please check out the link below for a video that's in the show. If you really like it and want to hear all the rest of it, it's on TikTok, and we think it's amazing and gives you an understanding what we're all going through right now, we're all feeling. Anyways, enjoy the show. Hey, everybody out there in podcast land. This is Copeland's Corner. Brian is out today. He's on vacation or whatever he's doing. And I am Tom Sawyer, and I'm going to be filling in for him today. We have an amazing group of people here today. We have Cathy Ladman, one of my favorite comedians in the country, Jim Vallely, one of the best writers out there in TV land, and the fabulous Nicole Boxer. Her last name tells you her pedigree. So we'll just leave it at that. We got a little bit to talk about today, as you might have guessed with everything that's going on. And we just found out some great news. I'm going to have Nicole share this with you because this will probably be old news tomorrow, but it's new news to us right now.
Right. Breaking news. So Donald Trump has appointed Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general. Everyone is very familiar with Matt Gaetz because he's probably the biggest defender of Donald Trump, certainly after the 2020 election and the big lie. And so even to me, someone who's circled around politics and lived in Washington, D.C. forever, this pick seems like a bridge too far. And in particular, I'll just leave it here and then want to hear from everyone else. But to pick a guy to lead the Justice Department who is currently under investigation for sex trafficking is like the most on-brand thing ever, considering to me, the election of Donald Trump has always embraced rape culture. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds really edgy and really out there, but anyway, I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks.
It's honestly not edgy because he's an adjudicated sexual assaulter and self-confessed as well.
Yeah. It is on brand. Yeah. It's right on brand. They're in the same club.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is now, Nicole, do you think that he'll be able to pass?
This is the big question. The Senate, as I think it is 53-47 as it stands right now in terms of the GOP have 53 seats to 47. That's pretty good. It's like a straight majority to confirm.
Surely there must be at least 3 anti-rape Republican senators.
Well, I think so.
Look, it's a new Senate, okay?
Yeah. And
the reality is, I think there's a good chance that Trump gets everything he wants, like Christmas morning. Mm-hmm. And that's the concern, that's the fear, and that's what we have to sort of gird against. And as Tom reminds us, don't be too shocked because they win when they wage a shock and awe campaign, which is what.
Yeah. Well, here's in a weird way, them thinking they've got this mandate is the same problem that George W had when he won the popular vote the last time the Republicans won the popular vote. Mm-hmm. Is one is they always think they have a mandate. 2, their mandates basically show how terrifying they are and wake everybody else up to what they just did by voting in this extreme party, which has been extreme for decades now. And so anything they can do without absolutely destroying our chances, without destroying the vote. That's my terrifying part is they eliminating the vote in the next election. They will be voted out.
Yeah, worth noting, back to the Senate and the confirmations, which is really what we're looking at now, like the outrage is going to flow from us for the next couple of weeks with the appointments, right? Is that John Thune, Senator Thune, who is not Trump's pick. So let's take a little silver lining out of this thing. You know, he's sort of your standard everyday generic Republican guy. You know, seemingly, you know, still no balls, but seemingly less Trumpy than the alternative. Go ahead.
How do you think he got in? I mean, was it because it was a closed vote?
He is a good looking guy.
He is handsome. I mean, I think we can all agree on that, right?
Well, Rick Scott is not. And Rick Scott was Trump's pick, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we got to take the smidgens of good news. Again, you know, as Tom points out, like, you know, it's really hard to find good news.
I mean, is Matt Gaetz? I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no. You ladies.
Is Matt Gaetz as hated as like someone like Ted Cruz, or
by whom?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the other reps.
He's loathed.
Yeah.
You know, he was the one that kicked Kevin McCarthy out. This is the payback for that.
Right.
When he was the one who kicked, you know, it's all about quid pro quo, you know, whatever, if you did something for me, I'll do something for you. Trump's whole message is first, he's going to go after anybody who was with him and then was against him. Liz Cheney, I would be actually, you know, it's hard to say, but poor Liz Cheney, you know, she's going to get a lot. But my question to Nicole and Cathy is, don't you think that if you were Matt Gaetz, would you want this sort of spotlight on you? Because that 17-year-old girl out, the allegations and stuff like that kind of went away because, well, you know, other stuff. But now it's like the guy who's in charge of enforcing the law in our country has been charged with this.
Microscope just got really big.
This isn't, you know, going back to high school, you know, like, you know.
But he strikes me as such an egomaniac, Matt Gaetz. I mean, that I don't even know if he would reasonably consider what you just brought up. Like gee, I don't want.
He's not going to step down. No. I mean, but it's borderline whether he gets confirmed or not.
Yeah, I think Matt Gaetz sees himself as the third Trump, well, the fourth Trump son, but above Barron. And like he sees himself, he's ingratiated himself as thus, and was known that way between 2018 and 2020 on the plane all the time. Every time Trump goes to Florida, he's on the plane, and being a kid who was on the Clinton plane often. You know, I know what the access and proximity to power is everything. So forget it. Matt Gaetz is like in the inner circle. And so I feel like it actually, the point of it is how ridiculous it is to put a guy who is a criminal at the center of
the justice,
holding up the justice of the country is the point, as is putting the biggest polluter on planet Earth at EPA, as is putting Tulsi Gabbard at Intel, right? A Russian mole. And we can go on, as is putting RFK Jr. at NIH. So you get the point. That's what this is about, actually.
I lost a couple Facebook friends over that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the few anti-vaxxer friends I had left were overjoyed. And I was like, okay, who else are we going to put in that has no expertise in the field that they're in charge of?
And Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel.
I think they thought his name was Maccabee. And they did. He's got to be Jew, right?
Put that one in the script. That's good.
There are weird bonus. You know, you try to pull out, you know, a shiny piece of gold out of a piece of poop, but I actually think that in a weird way, them eliminating the Department of Education is a good thing. And hear me out on this, because I think education in our country is an absolute disaster. And I think that you will have all these Democratic governors that will be creating their own education system in their states. And from that, I think we will build a coalition of who does it best in the next 2 to 4 years, and therefore fixing the federal education department when it comes back from the ashes in the next presidency, which won't be Trump because he can't be president again, I hope. And
No, well, unless he changes,
the rules,
Who
that
knows?
but,
is a constitutional change. He can't do that.
But I remember so clearly when this happened, and it resonates so often when Trump was campaigning in 2016, and he said, "I love the uneducated."
Yeah.
Of course.
So does the South, because the 5 worst states for education are all red states.
Well, maybe this is part of like a big shift because, it's so funny what you said about education. I mean, not funny, haha. But I always thought, well, maybe this is like, maybe the libertarian is coming out in me because I'm thinking maybe it is time that we gave the federal government a lot less power in our lives and made it more like, I don't know, Europe, where every state is our own little country.
Right.
And because it does seem to be that, we are losing at least the narrative, and they have painted anybody who's to a certain part of that population, Republicans, like, we're all evil, we're the devil, we're baby, we're, and they buy it. And if you live in the Midwest and you're only listening to Sinclair radio stations, and, once again, there is a certain elitism to, our country. And, our entertainment, we really didn't want those little local TV stations in the Midwest and the South.
Well, it's not that, though. The plan has always been, and unfortunately, since we allowed, I believe the law of the land used to be you couldn't own more than 3 media companies or 3.
Yeah, Rupert Murdoch changed that law. Yeah.
Yeah.
You used to not be able, if you weren't a citizen.
I think wasn't that law changed under Bill Clinton, though?
Deregulation.
It might have been.
Yeah.
Might have been.
Yeah. So,
Well,
so this is the, I mean, the problem
changed how many stations that studios and stations could own each other.
Right.
They got, but I believe it was Reagan who let Murdoch. You used to have to be an American citizen to own a newspaper.
Right.
A lot of this shit started with Reagan.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the end.
Before we get off the education thing, I just want to say, I want to push back a little bit on Jim, which is like, yeah, we're so elite, blah, blah, blah. But can we just talk about book bans for a sec? Let's talk about, let's talk about editing out slavery out of history books. What I would say is, sure, but let's be fair about the federal government's role has always been kind of like to stop the worst shit. And that's across the board. The federal government's job is to be like, no, you can't drag somebody who's homosexual behind a car. That's a federal hate crime. Like the states in Montana, that might be quite all right. Whereas in California, it's not. So there was a federal law put in place to even the playing field to say the worst shit can't go down here in this country.
Right.
And that's the protection the federal government gives. So I would say, yes, throw it back to the states. Let like Kansas rise up against abortion. Who would have thought the women of Kansas would rise up? So I'm hearing California going, yes, California can do a hell of a better job with our educating our kids, having a high school kid in public school myself. So, but I think we have to be careful that if one state like Florida wants to have a don't say gay or whatever, like can't say gay, whatever the thing is, that the federal government can step in and say, actually, that's hate and that's unacceptable. So I don't know how any of that's going to work under Trump.
Which brings me to the subject of, changing the narrative on certain things. The postmortem on the campaign of Harris has maybe shut off cable news completely. The Monday morning quarterbacking just drove me out of my mind because I honestly think that Harris ran an amazing campaign. I think people were so energized, so united. That's one of the things that shocked us the most on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that hearing pundits, well, what was that thing where she had the wives voting against their husbands behind their back? That really set off people, and all this little nitpicky stuff when you had an adjudicated sexual assaulter self-confessed sexual assaulter, a felon who could pretty much say anything. He could dance to music for 45 minutes in a trance and fellatiate a microphone and do all these things that, apparently it's not good for kids to hear stories from drag queens, but fellatiating the president, possible presidential nominee being going down on a microphone is okie
Can I
dokie.
add, he totally stole that bit from Brian Regan. And that's
There's no honor anymore.
No honor.
But I mean, I think he does those things because it blocks out other news. Like, that's who we're talking about.
Well, he's a narcissist, so
he doesn't
all he cares about is people talking about him. He doesn't care about how they're talking about him.
And maybe it's just a side effect of this, but he, when we're talking about him, we're not talking about a lot of other really important things that are going on. And I think that's it's a clown show. It's a distraction. And every day, everyone loves, I don't know why, but anger is such the product that they're selling out there. They sell it in entertainment. That have you seen a UFC fight? And that's what he is. He's an entertainer.
He's the pro wrestler
and that's why
politics.
all the oil people are like, yeah, drill baby drill. This guy's great, and they're doing all their evil deeds off on the side. They're not making change that we really need for the planet. And the ultimate thing is, for me, it's like most people in this country are, not making that much money. They're having a rough time. And, if you're worried about making your rent next week, it's very hard. Yeah, but in 40 years, though, or 20 years, they're not thinking 20 years from now.
Right.
They're thinking
very
tomorrow.
I'm curious.
Crisis,
I'm curious about what you guys think about if you've been witnessing the same thing I'm witnessed on cable news about the punditry, which I'm just tired of. I'm sick of. I'm really sick of. I was sick about it before, but now I'm really done.
Well, I also think that, where do you get really fair, objective news now? I mean, it's gone. They're all, everybody's like on one team or the other team, and there's really no.
Or they want to do both sidesism.
Well,
making the guy who was adjudicated for sexual assault equal to the woman, or a gaffe by Biden. It's the same thing. Right. That's they always feel like they have to balance it out, because you don't want to seem unfair.
Cathy, when do you think it was totally fair? I mean, when we got like a half an hour
when I was like 8, when I was 8.
Yeah. I would posit that we all got the same news.
Yes.
And of course, newscasters had to be objective. That was the whole thing.
Right.
You couldn't have an agenda reporting the news. So
right.
we got, like little dollops. I mean, I'm old enough to remember seeing the news on Vietnam. And I think we actually did get real news back then about Vietnam, because we actually saw footage of young men carried into helicopters, bleeding, That's moved that. Now you can't even see a body being
right.
They've sanitized it, but they were owned then by defense contractors, and they are now. And we need to be like really cogent about who owns the news and why they want to make us so angry, so that we'll buy the prescription medication that's on Lawrence O'Donnell. Oh,
by the way, that stuff works. It's cool.
Oh, yeah, so awesome.
Yeah,
except for the rash.
You look good.
This man.
For the audience, they can't see him, but man, he's looking.
I remembered that my water is here.
And I don't know if you've ever watched Lawrence O'Donnell, but I don't know if you know this, but did you know he wrote on The West Wing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. He's mentioned it like every 7 minutes.
He also used to work for Pat Moynihan. He mentioned
that's right. He did.
But what I would say, just that my 15-year-old son Sawyer, he is the most informed human on earth. Like, oh yeah, Tom Sawyer. Yes. Sawyer. He's the most informed person on earth, and he's going like this, right, with his phone, scrolling through clips. He never put on a TV in his life, but he sees everything, ingests it faster, watches it from the source, goes on YouTube, watches the full speeches of both candidates. He's incredibly informed and ingesting news in a way that is 2.0. Like, I have no idea how he knows every fucking thing. And by the way, he knows every comedian's take on it also.
What are his sources?
YouTube Reels, massively important. Snapchat, he's
Right.
not on TikTok and he's not on Instagram.
Right.
I just wanted to add that there was a wonderful post-mortem of the election that I saw, which is, I think, a little sleepier than the MSNBC, CNN hot takes that pissed you off so bad, Tom.
Yeah.
Which the Jon Stewart conversation with Heather Cox.
Oh, yes. That was
great.
really great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
Yes,
there's
she's
also
great.
yeah, so like you have the opportunity to have someone reflecting on history and where we sit. And that felt really like less painful because it was like, look at these patterns in history. And also, by the way, Trump's economic message was actually Biden's economic reality, that we were bad at selling. And we just let other people define us, bro. That's why at the end of the day, we just went through a category 5 hurricane if you're a Democrat. So Democrats listening right now, you just lost your fucking house. I get it. Or you were flooded. You're at your aunt's house right now. I totally get it. The calm is coming, right? The calm after the storm. And we can just sort of be with it and think about, well, how are we going to rebuild better?
Right. One of the things I'd love to see to do for the next president of the United States is start talking to the American people directly. Once a month, have a national conversation with the country, either through a townhouse or directly through them. We have the president has the power to give a speech to the country that goes on all networks. So it should be an hour-long speech once a month. Here's where we are. Here's what we're going to be doing.
Trump does that.
You're talking about Trump?
Questions. Yeah, Trump does do that. Remember?
No, but a lot of networks don't carry his stuff because of the fact that it's mostly all lies. They don't want they shut it down in about 10 minutes. I'm talking about.
I think you're right, but I think the next president is, it's a selling job. He's a salesman, and it's very performative now. And Barack Obama had it. He had it. I think Kamala Harris had it. I just don't think she had enough time to,
Well, the other part of the problem is, and one of those things you never see come up with the pundits again, is the simple fact that we have a lot of misogyny and a lot of racism in this country, a lot more than we ever thought. We always thought it was, it's fringy, maybe it's 25%, but it's off the charts.
Hates women.
Young men are being indoctrinated into being a misogynistic culture. Nick Fuentes, Rogan. And I think that the pandemic really, a lot of guys just stayed home watching TV. They're not knowing how to make connections with human beings. Less and less. Not their fault. Not their fault. I got to keep on saying I'm not like these kids. But what they have been programmed, what's been gone into their head, and it's very hard to get somebody to deprogram themselves, especially, Trump came in and took all those young men who don't vote. He took a whole handful of young men who don't vote, guys in their 20s. They don't do that stuff. And he went and he did 3 hours on Joe Rogan. It didn't matter what he said. He was paying attention to them. And, young white men feel abandoned, the statistics bear that out. There's a lot more women are going to college now. Women, I read, and I don't know if it's true, but
I can't sit on my ass and have just a college degree and own a mega corporation. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, but when you're shown that all the time, I get jealous. Of my peers. It's a very easy thing to do. And like I said, you gin up that anger, and here comes a guy, and Trump was sold as a businessman. He was sold to a successful businessman by Hollywood. That's on us.
Yeah, no kidding.
And, so they're going, this guy's a genius. You've been telling me that for 10 years.
But we did also hand over the keys to the car to these tech bros without any checks and balances. We're like, oh yeah, dude, take our children's minds here. And now it turns out even the Jewish guy, Zuckerberg, is on Team Russia. All I'm saying is, why and how did we think we could just hand over a platform like Twitter to Elon Musk, knowing kind of what we knew, and I'll stay there, by the way, willingly staying there, speaking to our groups. And, Tom, I did go back and listen to a couple episodes of this show when I was on my road trip yesterday, right before the election, how wrong the panel was about what was going to happen, as was I. It's like we were in a different paradigm a week ago, 2 weeks. We were going to win, bro. We were. Okay. So in the aftermath of that, speaking of, Monday morning quarterbacking, I got off X and I couldn't look at the onslaught of images coming at me, to Jim's point. The Nick Fuentes being amplified times 1,000. We must find places to have conversations and to clear our minds and our children's minds of this onslaught of hate, like really the darker shit. Again, I'm not talking about banning anything. There has to be an alternative. I think of Greg Proops because he's such a liberal, he's a lover. He loves people. He loves humanity, and he's willing to fight for that. Okay. And I just think of him and like, how do we amplify a guy who's like again, the demasculizing of Democratic men that are Democrats. Jim, that's what Waltz, like,
No,
should we have picked Mark Kelly?
like you know what Trump did that was so smart? He went to those UFC matches. He's always in the audience for the big matches.
More audience for him.
You just feel like he's one of us. And they also felt, and if I had his money, I'd be just like him.
Yeah.
It's I don't know how we elevate, sweetness and kindness is never going to, pardon the pun, Trump, meanness and misogyny.
But I also think we need a place to put our anger and get past it. But also to understand where it came from. Cause I'm sure like I'm sure like me, you guys were completely devastated for like a good 2 or 3 days of just, it's like
I knew it was coming.
punch.
I knew it was coming a couple of weeks beforehand.
Okay.
I was call banking for Trump. No, I'm kidding. I was call banking in Wisconsin for Kamala, and the anger and calling people up, and I haven't done that a lot, right? But they give you their name, their address, it's right in front of you, and then I'm asking them to vote, and I don't want to give who I'm voting for to somebody who knows my name and my address. It's
Right.
it's a weird thing that and the knocking on the doors. I don't think people like to have their doors knocked on anymore. We don't even like getting phone calls anymore.
I agree with that.
I don't like the texts, and especially now, when I get a text from a Democrat about like, we're going to pass the No Kings bill, but we need your donation.
I got one from this fucking club owner and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Jesus, that's you. I apologize."
Anyways, I wanted
like kids.
There is a video that's going around, and it's I sent it to you guys earlier, and it's going around, and it pretty much summed up a lot of my feelings, and I wanted to show it to our audience, and hopefully everybody will share it with somebody. At least it'll give you an idea of what it is you're feeling, and how to healing is the most important part of healing is understanding where your pain's coming from. And so I thought this video put it into words like I hadn't seen anybody else's. So if we can share that, Charlie, it'd be great.
The reason I'm so heartbroken, destroyed, and absolutely disgusted with the results of this election is that it invalidates everything I have ever been taught about how I should live my life, and everything I've tried to teach my kids. So it's an absolute betrayal to realize at 57 years of age that when it comes really down to it, over half of this country really doesn't value the notions of being kind, being generous, loving your neighbor, being accepting, having empathy, showing understanding, being truthful, being ethical in business, being sensible and level-headed, not being a bully, not being selfish, and not being a total asshole. And because I've been taught these things my entire life, it's really easy for me to see that Donald Trump is a vile and despicable human being. He exhibits everything that I have been taught to set my sights against in order to be a good functioning member of society. But now, over half our country supports this person and believes that he's the one who's going to make America great. Well, hey, here's a secret. Someone who has worked so hard at sowing discord is never going to do anything to unite us. That's his big lie, because he doesn't benefit from Americans coming together. He and all the Tucker Carlsons and Alex Jones out there, they profit from the rage that they're able to manufacture. So don't tell me it's okay if we disagree, as if this is akin to our individual preferences for wine or toilet paper. This is not a simple disagreement. This is you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very articulate and really, I think spoke, expressed it for a lot of people. And also who he, that this guy's a veteran. He represents a lot of people who may have voted for Trump. I mean, he can't stand the man, and deservedly so, because he's vile. He is vile.
And I think the confusing part too is watching all the people. It's not just the people who didn't know, because the Google's gone crazy with searches on tariffs and Project 2025, and all these things are after the fact. People are looking it up and seeing what they just elected in. I just think that the things that bother me the most are when you see an Hispanic woman knowingly voting for a guy who she knows is going to deport members of her family, and she's okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, so many people voted against their interests because there was so much misinformation and low information.
But how about the people that know, I'm talking about the people who absolutely knew what he was going to do, understood it, and are okay with them, with somebody dragging a member of their family out of the house.
He didn't misinform them that he was deporting people and shutting down the border, the same way he didn't misinform people that he was going to build the wall. So I mean, there are definitely, and listen, I talked to the guy, we have a lot of Hispanic guys who work in our neighborhood, and I just went up to my guy and I said, so what do you think of Trump? He goes, good on crime, good on the economy, because somebody just stole his lawnmower, his $3,000 lawnmower out of his truck, and he's pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, I don't think it's our job. I mean, when they have that and they still make that vote, we can go, I don't understand it, but it's not like, Trump is secretly going to deport 10 million people. No, he's saying that.
Yeah.
So what do you think that's about? Do you think they're just
it's self-loathing?
Because
I think
slow moving.
No, self-loathing.
But I think if you're working a construction job and you're getting $25 an hour, and you see a guy come into this country and he's willing to do it for $10 an hour, you want to hold on to your job. I could be wrong. That's what I think. A lot of it is, just because, listen, we're all from the same country too, and half of us clearly don't get along,
right,
with the other half. So
but we do every day, though.
These people,
that's the thing that bothers me.
That they got into the country legally, or they got into, they've been here for 10 years and gone through the rigmaroles. I mean, what can we do as people? I remember I had a woman, working for me, and she was from El Salvador, and I started paying her FICA, which, it was a little bit, it was like $100 a month for like over 25 years. That's why she became a citizen, because she had paid into Social Security.
Yeah.
Those
are the folks we're losing. These are the folks we're losing. I think, Tom, I think to your point, people don't think it's going to be them. Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think
I think it's the other person.
Oh, yes.
They work hard. They build businesses. They are members of their community, of their church. Their kids play soccer. They're integrated into our country. And so I think that there is what I was going to say when I thought you said slow moving, like they know that immigration it's a slow moving target. Like there are generations of kids, that were born here that are citizens whose parents are not, the parents are still here. They're willing to take the risk and they don't want to be, how, like I saw kids on Arizona State University campus. You couldn't find a kid saying she was going to vote for Kamala. You couldn't find one kid because it's not cool. We're in a point now where the tipping point is, that's why I was going back to the Greg Proof, like, it's just not cool to be, educated and liberal and all. Cruelty is the cool thing.
Yeah, and that also started with Reagan.
And it's
Right.
rapey and it's incel-y and it's misogynistic. And right now it's a pushback against political correctness and all that stuff. And we're in a phase because everything goes like this, and you better believe it does do that. So, this is why I think we have to, breathe, pause. And to this video, just one last point. I'm glad he's heartbroken. I'm glad he's devastated, because that's what it feels like. That's what it felt like for women in 2016.
Yeah.
We rose up. Men did not. So good. He's heartbroken. Now he knows what it feels like.
I am 70 years old. No, I'm kidding. So, no, I was, I think you're right. Men didn't rise up, and we have to ask ourselves, why? Why do you think that is? Seriously.
Yeah.
Men seriously were unaffected by it. And their wives were, again, this tangential affecting that we think is going to motivate people. No, guys, when you're in the ballot, it's like my mom used to say that her mother told her, honey, voting is the greatest privilege. And even daddy doesn't know who I voted for. Like, it's a secret act.
Yeah.
And, people aren't telling pollsters who by the way, what's his name? Nate, the
Silver.
pollster. Nate,
Yeah.
Silver.
Nate Silver was right. And everyone was like, Nate Silver's an asshole. Nate Silver sucks.
Yeah.
No one wanted
Because
to.
he didn't give the answer you wanted.
Yeah,
You know what I
he
mean?
basically
We
said,
were all
and what he
looking-
said that was really smart. He goes, it's either all the swing states are either going to go for one or the other.
Yeah.
And he totally
Right.
got
And by the way, then the 3% who voted, who were totally misinformed because they saw something, because the misinformation now is spoon-fed in such a way you almost can't recognize it and such, like Trump co-opting Biden's economy, taking credit for it, blaming Biden for his inflation. Are you mad? So we got to get, like to Tom's point, the presidential campaign of 2028 starts today. And I want to see everybody that's been there before, the, Pelosi, Schumer, they're all my friends, whatever. Guys, you got to go now. Time to talk about pass the torch.
Well,
Okay?
I think it's time we start. Here's what the epiphany I had today is that what the Democratic Party needs to do is to take the Bernie Sanders road without having the guy who is the Walter Brennan of politics, the guy who was 80 at 50, and make him and take say the similar approach of populism. We have everything is on our side. Everything is on the liberal side. All the accomplishments of the last 80 years in wages and workforce, in structure, in Social Security, Medicare, all these things have been created by liberals. And what we need to do is go that populist route and stop with we can elevate all the other smaller groups of us. I don't want to do it on the backs of the trans people. That's ridiculous. But what I don't want to do is spend all the time in the weeds, which is where they want us to spend. Just anytime somebody brings up a smaller group of people, saying the old adage of rising wave carries all ships or whatever, however that goes.
So I have a question. if that's the case, that all of these great things were accomplished by liberals, where's the disconnect here? Why?
Well, I mean, we're the person who's shy about telling all the trophies they have in the back,
And
you know.
Also,
And we
they have
never
a
did-
cult
we-
leader. Let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Well, also,
Say it again. What did you say, Nicole?
No, they've got a great entertainer at the top of the ticket.
Yeah,
Like we
right.
could be about
Yeah,
shit
if you
all
take him
day
away,
long.
the party crumbles.
Right.
I mean,
They're
they're a
the
disa-
cult leader who basically spent, let's be honest, since 2015, walking down the escalator, creating a brand, building a movement, not
Yeah.
5 guys that talk about accomplishments, a movement with cruelty at the center that,
Right.
screw that guy. He's taking your job, right?
Yep.
And we're in this together and we'll show them. And women know your place. And they also were very smart about the Roger Stones of the world and the way they've got really nasty characters running the game, like coaching, like not coaching, but like running the plays, like building the
Right.
playbook, right? And we don't do
Well-
that. And what I was going to say is, I believe the opportunity is to do what Tom is saying, is have a town hall meeting that I produce with Jim, and that that basically we invite. It's a tour, and it goes on tour for 4 years before the campaign starts, and we invite the Max Frosts and the Jasmine Crockett and Jamie Raskin, and we bring it across the country to the middle, the part we fly over, and we
Mhm.
talk to people about what we've done and who we are and where we're going and what do you guys care about and what's going on. I mean, we have a great bench. So
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. I believe in all that stuff, but we have, a cult leader at the top with, gabillions. And
Good
it's
news
gonna be
about him is
we're
he's
not-
78 years old and he eats like McDonald's.
touche.
So, he's not, there's no team of scientists that are going to keep that.
Very, very
Building
relatable.
an oligarchy.
It's a very relatable thing to eat McDonald's.
Mhm.
No, I'm not
I worked
saying,
at
I'm not
McDonald's
saying, I'm
for
saying health
3
wise.
months.
Yeah.
I eat
I'm saying it's
McDonald's
going to
every
kill
day.
him more
What do
than,
you relate
an
with?
assassin's bullet is a quarter pounder large in an artery.
I think I think Nicole is right. I really do believe we don't know who our next Democratic nominee is.
Mm-mm.
Who he or she is.
Yeah.
I think we have to get a movement, and I do think Biden, God bless him, he did a great job. I really do believe that if after the midterms, he could have gone out on a high, and if he said, I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale, go out
Yeah.
and let him, we would have had a year and a half of all that infighting because people like a contest.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake.
It was a huge
Yeah.
mistake.
It was
100%.
and when you're president of the United States, your mistakes are much bigger than
That's
why
right.
why did I turn down Big Bang Theory?
It's very hard for people to
Although
walk away.
that is my personal
Jim. You need some McDonald's, sir.
I don't want to talk about it. How did we even get into this? Don't make me relive it.
No, I think we have a
but
great bench.
I think you're right. I think it's the time to regroup. First off, if the economy is doing well in 2028, I always thought that Trump Jr. picked Vance, right? So it could be Trump, Vance, and then in 2028, Vance, and then Trump Jr. So it'd be, Trump, Vance, and then Vance, Trump, Vance, Trump, and then Trump, somebody else. By that time, Vance's stupid kid will probably be old enough to be president.
But
That's the game.
What I also
yeah.
Sorry.
No.
What I also find so interesting is that, sorry, Jim, do you have something else you wanted to say?
No. I'm just so excited to be anywhere right now.
Okay. But what I find interesting too is that so many of these guys are married to immigrants.
Yes.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Vance and Trump and who was the other one I was just thinking of today?
McConnell.
Mitch
Isn't it
McConnell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Oh, yeah,
so
Mitch
many of
McConnell,
them.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
many of them.
Yeah.
It's there are so
They're not as mouthy.
and Kathy, you can answer this. So many of my Jewish friends, this is serious. So many of my Jewish friends are really scared right now.
Yeah.
And really frightened. And and as pure goyim, you know, just me not being the deepest guy, thinking, well, you know, Trump is very pro-Israel. So what's the disconnect there? You know, why?
Yeah, I
That's
think
the- that's the thing.
Because
Trump
I
and
know it's
Netanyahu are very
Charlottesville. I know,
similar.
pardon me?
Trump and Netanyahu are very similar. They're both criminals who are trying to stay out of jail.
Right. And that's why Palestinian Americans blew my mind, you know, with the whole Jill Stein movement, is I get where they're coming from, but you're not electing Jill Stein. She's not going to get elected. The guy who is completely in bed with Netanyahu, who's going to just go big thumbs up on eliminating Palestinians, however you want to do it, that's who you elect.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be
Full
obliterated.
disclosure, I do make bumper stickers that say, "Don't blame me. I voted for Stein." So you know, I'm not going to weigh in on that.
Yeah. In
Well,
2 years, it'll be the usual. Stein who?
we are such a big tent, you know, we're a big tent, Democrats. We're not a monolith. We're not, you know, we're not all Christian. You know, we are diverse. We are hard to talk to. We have to, you know, we have lots of little pods. We're buckets.
Well, that's
And
why
it's
I'd
very
say
difficult to govern
Right.
us, and it's also very difficult to find consensus and have one cult leader. So
Yeah.
we've got work to
That's
do.
a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good
You
point.
know, like we wanted to be, you know, Obama, like, you know, that it synthesized everything. And we really believed Kamala was going to be the elixir. It would be the medicine we needed to get us all on the same page. But we still are in our buckets. You know, we're still in those buckets. And she didn't pick them all off. She didn't
Well-
speak to everyone. She just
she
ignored
didn't have
it.
time to
Didn't
speak
have
to
a
everybody.
choice. Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. But that's a problem. And that's why, again, we need to be out there on the road talking to people.
Yeah, I don't want to get into, you know, parsing things, but, you know, I was surprised that she didn't try to get on Joe Rogan, you know, because that was a whole audit, you know, and it's a different way of communicating. Those three, I mean, who cares what?
Yeah.
It's a mistake that wouldn't have mattered to me,
Buttigieg
honestly.
would have done it.
Pardon
Yeah.
me?
Mayor Pete would have done it.
Mayor Pete would have done
He's
it.
a
Yes.
very courageous kind of guy.
Yeah, and
He's really, and I think that's what we need. We need
Yeah.
someone who's
I
going to
mean-
get in the belly of the beast.
Do you guys think that this country is apt to elect a woman at this?
I think it's going to be hard after this. I think it's going to be really, I mean, I think that was the thing in the back of everyone's head about Kamala from the beginning, but it's like, oh no, we weren't like this, you know, once, you know, we all think it, you know, of course she can run this country. She's
Well, we all blamed Hillary's loss on Comey, on a bad campaign.
Yeah.
She didn't
and she
campaign
was a
enough in the
woman,
swing
but
states.
we
And
I
she
was
won
like,
the
if you
popular
don't like
vote
your-
by
if
3
you don't-
million.
If you
So
don't like
we-
your mom, if you don't like your mother, if you're a guy who
Yeah.
doesn't like his mom, you're not going to vote for Hillary.
I'm
And
telling you.
Kamala definitely had that vice principal of the high school who you get sent down to, and she's going to teach you, you know. So I mean, there is all those people bring those into the voting booth.
We're
Yeah,
in
and what-
strange times. We're in strange. I feel like if it were, you know, again, I feel like if that Trump, you know, he's like genderless. Like, again, I'm trying to get to this cult status thing that one has. I do think a woman with that type of status that appeals across the, you know, that would be possible. There's something about just a sort of ordinary woman or politician that is why I think Trump got the margins he got. He is not a politician, guys. He is not a politician.
Yeah.
And, you know, being in California and being a Californian and having a mother who was in the Senate and all of that, and we had the first 2 women senators at the same time, you know, we're different.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't, like, frankly, the guy that in the TikTok video, like, I'm probably not going to go hang out with that guy. Like, I'm not trying to be one America. I like California. I like New York. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I go to Denver, but I'm just saying, like, or I'm more likely you'll find me in London or Paris. And that's just how it is. I'm not saying good, bad, or whatever. I'm out of touch. Also not running for president.
I think what that guy was getting at, though, was those are sort of universal values
Yeah.
that we all thought that
Yeah,
we
that
had.
we're raised
you
to not
know?
be assholes.
And I will say this, I meet Trump people all the time. I'm from New Jersey. There's a lot on the Jersey Shore. There's you know, and my just sort of little observation is I would totally trust them if I had a flat tire. I would probably say that a Trump supporter might stop before, somebody in a Tesla.
He was talking about America, though. That's what I'm talking about. What is America? Like, that's what, like, one America. That's what he's talking about, the values of America.
America is different, though, because we have
America's
so
like
many
in
different
here,
cultures.
dude. It's
Yeah, but
We
I mean,
wouldn't
it's
hire
always been
Trump.
different.
That's the irony. All these Trumpers, if they owned a business, and I'm sure there's a bunch of them that do, if that guy came in with 32 felonies and was an adjudicated sexual assaulter, he would be like, hey, there's the door. He would be out of there so fast. And they voted that guy the president.
That's the thing that Franken out because he did this.
I know.
That's the thing that this guy is outraged about. And I think that's one of the things that was a punch to the gut to all of us. This woman,
outraged.
Right. Harris had been serving the people of the state of California and the United States. That's all she's been doing, is serving the people. And this guy has been taking advantage of the people. This guy has been taking money out of the pockets of people. He's completely lawless.
Why,
that's the guy we went for.
It's almost as if Trump has gained their confidence.
But the thing is, he's going to go to China and he's going to be like, "Hey, China!" Like, they don't see it. It's like he's not
going to do that.
It's like Latino people and Hispanic people don't see it affecting them. Like, they want someone who's going to go to China and be like, "Oh," you know what I mean? They want a strong man. They want the circus leader,
a bully. There's something that they like about him being.
It doesn't reflect America and who we are.
But the thing is,
maybe Nicole, in some small way, it does.
Of course it does. But what
the
I'm saying is, when that guy in the video and his friends go to church, you better believe they're nice to each other.
Right.
Okay? They haven't changed.
No.
They're not Trump. It's the political discourse that's changed.
But
and Nicole, he's so surprised at.
I will disagree with you on one thing.
Please.
I think what really changed people is social media. And I mentioned this last week on the show, but on social media, we behave like we behave in the car when we're alone, where we say words we would never say if somebody was sitting just next to us in the car.
We sing show tunes?
What? They think to other drivers. So I think that's the thing about it, is where on social media, it's like 7 out of 10 people are bullies. That's what that's what you're used to seeing.
Because there are no repercussions.
Right.
No, you can be as loud as courageous as you want to be.
Well, especially, and that's why the other thing I wanted to mention is that the amount of people leaving Twitter and or X is amazing. I mean, the amount of people that are just going off of that is so there's so many people that I think the value of Twitter now is down to like 20% of what Elon paid for it.
Yeah, but you know what?
I know that, but I'm just saying that there are ramifications for what's, and hopefully, other people will see other billionaires until we finally realize that we don't need billionaires in this country. We'll see that, hey, picking a side isn't a good business model.
Jeff Bezos, man, didn't endorse. And I understand that, like, there's this whole Gavin DeBecker, like, does Bezos's security, and he's like JFK Jr.'s best friend. Like, it's all like, it is very much, we are looking at oligarchs here. I'm sorry, like, we are looking at the future potential privatization, selling off. And again, getting back to the point, we need to be in shock and awe and discombobulated, and we need to be in despair for them to achieve their goals. Check yourself where you were in 2001 when we, went to war, and what they did, what the military industrial complex was able to pull off, the amounts of money that shifted hands around that time, and what happened in America in 2001. And I think this is going to be twice that in terms of what they're going to try to pull off here at home. So
yeah.
Happy, joy.
Nicole, I just wanted to say something about something when you said that Trump is not a politician. I think he's not from government, but I think he is a politician. I think he knows how to buy people.
He doesn't. He doesn't say exactly. Listen, most politicians, we could write their script for them. We know exactly what they're going to say. You know, the stump beach speech is dead. I mean, you know, I watched a lot of MSNBC during this. I think that they're relatively reliable narrators most of the time, and but they would cut to Kamala's speech, and I can say, but good work is hard work, or all those platitudes.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
and Trump definitely has his platitudes, but he's entertaining the whole time.
That's it.
And
Well,
and
most of the
and
time.
No, it's a
it's I
show.
don't think it's that
Yep.
The
complicated. And
assassination
he's not afraid to get that bad press. Everyone
Yeah.
else is.
Yeah.
You know,
You know,
I'm
one
so
of the
afraid, you know, so everyone's walking in this little tiny narrow, and this guy's going bing, 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 left and right, and people like that.
Yeah,
one
and
of
I
the
think that
friends that I lost over Trump, and this is a really good friend, and it just offended my values so much. And I remember her saying, he is entertaining, and that was enough for her.
Ooh.
I know.
You know,
Yeah.
but I think the major thing it's going to determine where we are, where the economy is in 2028, and how people's, you know, portfolios are doing and how they feel about the world. You know, I mean, the one glimmer of hope, I say that even they know that. Even
Yeah,
they know that if unemployment is like 10% and if inflation is back up again, you know,
well, they've got time because Biden did a good job.
Mhm.
So
No,
they're going to ride the wave of the economy and Biden's numbers for at least like maybe 2-3 more quarters, you know, and then he's going to empty the treasury, you know, and do a variety of things with it. And then the next, you know, 4 years from now, we'll probably be looking at some kind of downturn in the economy, I guess. But I was just going to remind you, Cathy, of remember when Trump would have those cabinet meetings and it was like completely for show, like,
yeah.
and the name placards and who'd be sitting next to him. And like, it was just bizarre. Like,
Yeah.
so to me, that's not what the art of politics actually is like, compromise is actually building coalitions. It's convincing people, finding middle ground. That to me, anyway, that's how I grew up watching my mother
Right.
cross the aisle and actually pass a piece of legislation. What we're going to see is sort of a legislationless executive order.
Yeah, because
Maybe
these are not
like
decent.
rule
These are
by
not decent
executive
people.
order. Yeah,
Well,
but there won't be
right.
lots of legislation passed in the next 2 years, and
Right.
then
Well,
hopefully we'll get some seats back. Hopefully there'll be a pushback like there was in 2018.
Right.
I'm
Well, I
reminded
think there
of
will be a mini blue wave, and we'll at least get Congress back. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
but
I also reminded of like Jake Johansson's joke about the Republicans are they're like a 12-year-old or 8-year-old. They when they get into power, they can't help themselves. They want to go in and fuck up as much shit as they can. These curtains are fun. If you hang on them, oh, and then and they what this boss come from China like 1,200 years ago? Oops, you know they do it publicly because and instead of taking things in dribs and drabs, which they do all the way through to the presidency is where they lose their shit. You know, they can be so subtle and so smart and play the long game for everything else except for when they get in the presidency. And then everything turns to shit, and then we have a blue wave. But we have to go on this. That's the other thing was, who was it? Mehdi Hassan, who was saying America is a country of amnesiacs. They can't remember. You can't remember 4 years ago. You can't remember January 6th, how we all felt on January 6th.
Or
You know?
COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't remember COVID and what he did and how many Americans that are the data shows that he was responsible for killing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many people, and that's the thing that bothered me too. And then this guy that we put on the video for doesn't even say, he is going to kill people. Women are going to die from bleeding out. Doctors are going to leave. This is the other thing that people don't understand because, of course, Republicans don't do subtlety. You know, when doctors leave states because they don't want to go to jail and they don't feel like standing around and watching somebody die because they can't do anything legally to help them, they're going to leave the state. They're going, other doctors are going to go with them. And then the guy who had a rupture, appendicitis and a rupture, he's going to die in the ER because there isn't a doctor to be able to treat him because all the doctors are leaving their state. So it's sort of like you just can't get through to some people that this isn't just this one thing. It's a thing that sets off a domino effect that eventually gets to you right in the back of the head. You're not going to even see it coming.
But like as Nicole said, there's abortion laws going on in every state right now, and I think that they think, well, that'll undo that. You know what I mean? That'll keep the doctors in town. But I mean, if you go out into rural America, you got to drive 45 minutes to get to an emergency room.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're also talking about, like, look at Florida, where 57% of the people voted for that law, and it wasn't good enough because
That's right.
they raised the bar to 60%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is what they do.
There'd be so much outrage over that, but yeah, I mean, look, we're in.
And what's ironic? It was like they raised it by voting by doing a 51% majority. They had to have a 51% of the people
60, right?
agree to raise this other level to 60%.
I didn't know that. That's
that's just
like
great
the U.S.
stuff.
Senate. It's look, I mean, I think everything you guys are saying, it's important that Democrats have let's not call it a resistance this time, but like just opposition, just strong opposition, that we're ready to go, that we're talking to people in a new way. We're using the tools. If we don't have them, we build them. We've got smart people to reach people.
You know who I think should run for office as a Democrat? Nicole Boxer. No kidding. You're like exactly like the perfect candidate.
Look, you wear a baseball cap backwards.
You know how to talk to people.
Who's gonna vote
You have a natural thing. You've made some great documentaries. You got the cred. It's all there. All there.
But do you want to do that?
Hell to the no.
Hell no. It's a horrible job.
About 20 years ago, Nicole and I were having a conversation outside of Cobb's in the cannery, and I was going on a rant, and she goes, "You should run for office." And I go, have you met the old Tom Sawyer? The one that did all the drugs and caused all the havoc? Not going to pass.
Jim, I'm going to pitch you on, we're going to produce this whole like town hall thing. We're going to create a YouTube channel. It's going to be amazing. I think that's the future of how we talk to folks. We got to be talking to people directly, bring candidates to them directly, talking about issues they care about.
And have them talk like human beings, not like. Stop with the speeches every time. Talk to people. Right. Talk to people like people.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that guy out there is like, maybe it's who's the senator from Ohio who just lost?
Sherrod Brown.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Good.
Yeah,
I mean, he's available.
He's available.
And
I get some free time.
It was like when Nixon lost governor. Everyone had Nixon written off. He ran for governor of California.
I love Sheldon Whitehouse.
Yes. Right.
Really, there's so many. We have such a deep bench right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I like Sheldon Whitehouse. He always looks like he should be selling me oatmeal on TV. and you'll enjoy them.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, hey, it's been super good to have you guys here. Is there anything anybody wants to plug, or
I got something. My wife wrote a poem, and I know that sounds crazy, but she has gotten such amazing feedback on it. And I'm not a poem reader, but I'm going to read it. Okay. And she writes that she's got a podcast called 50 Words for Snow, where she investigates words from other language where there's not like an equivalent in English. And she discovered a Greek word called eunomia. Do you know what it is? EUNOMIA. She goes, it means seeing the good in others, giving them the benefit of the doubt, being ready to see their perspective and question your own. All in that in one word, right? So she wrote eunomia in the aftermath. It's about the election. She goes, what if now, after it all, we softened our gaze? For a season, we learned to armor ourselves, to scan the worst, the flaws in strangers' faces. In their villainy, we found our heroism in their wrongs, our right. Eunomia asks us to look again for what we missed. It asks us to see a spark of good in what we scorned. It doesn't mean we forget the harm, but what if we too need saving from the coldness we've let creep in, from the contempt we've kept with contempt, from the company we've kept with contempt? What if we buried the best of each of us, of each other in battle? Maybe now in the quiet after, we could begin to clear away the stones and notice where in the rubble and ruin and regret the light catches. So that's
Awesome.
my thought.
Wow.
I think
And
we
what's
have
your
to
wife's
start
name,
looking for the
Jim?
good. What?
What's your wife's name?
Mrs. Vallely. Maggie Rowe. Maggie Rowe is my wife's name, and she's on Facebook. But she wrote that, and my Trump friends, everyone kind of like, oh, I get that. And so maybe instead of like, you're bad, you're evil, maybe if when we reset, we can start saying, let's look at the good in those people, because nobody likes to be called an asshole.
Here, here.
Okay?
Except for Trump. Loves it.
All right, guys.
Kathy, you got anything to plug?
Carol Leifer and Wendy Liebman and I are going to start doing some shows together.
Hey, girls in Long Island, I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be at Flappers in Burbank on December 14th.
And I'd love to have them both on the show here too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got to try to come to that. That'd be fun.
It's believe it or not, it's at 4:30 in the afternoon. We're 3 early birds.
I'm up.
It's the happy hour. It's the happy hour show.
Yeah, the early bird special. I love that. Keep watching Arrested Development. That's my
Residuals.
So,
Okay, Nicole.
Yeah, I will be appearing 3 days a week at the Mindery, which is my local yoga studio. I'll be on the mat, and occasionally I'll be sitting in a meditation chair.
Okay, awesome.
That's nice.
Well, it's been great having you guys on,
you
and
guys.
really appreciate it. Hope it was a little cathartic for you.
Great, thank you.
And,
Thanks
and
for
you're all
inviting me.
welcome back.
Cool.
Thanks, Tom.
Nice to
thanks,
Okay.
Tom.
Take care. Nice to meet everybody.
Nice to meet you, folks.